Hi everyone. This week I decided to do a review of the app that you can find for your Android or Apple device called Mosalingua German. This app uses a system called spaced repetition memorization, which is basically the idea that if you remember to review your stuff a day later, and then another day after that, and then like a week after that, and then 2 weeks after that, maybe a month later, then you'll have a better chance of remembering all of this stuff once it comes down to when you actually need it. You can take a test on here, or you can just go ahead and jump into whatever level you think you are. Me personally, I wanted to see what the test was like, so I took it. It's actually really short, which kind of concerns me, and it's also a self-governing test, so you tell it whether or not you are correct or not, which is another problem for this test. So the accuracy of this test is basically non-existent. I honestly don't think that this has anything to do with what level you are actually on at this point. Once you get into the system, you can then just choose your level because the test doesn't actually tell you what level you really are. And then you can go in and start picking out some vocabulary. You can pick it based on what kind of learning you want to do. Do you want to learn for a test? Do you want to learn for conversation? Do you want to learn for traveling? Once I get into the system here, it tells me that I can learn 5 flashcards, and so I hit the little flashcard thing. First off, it shows me a flashcard with nothing but the audio file, and then I'm supposed to repeat whatever it is that they said. Then once I flip over the flashcard, it repeats it again, and I can see and hear what it is that's being said. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with this particular style. Basically, the idea is that you hear the words before you can see the words, and so instead of envisioning what they actually are spelled as, you envision in your head what you think they're spelled as, which could be problematic, especially if you're not used to listening to German words and you don't really necessarily know how the spelling works and that kind of thing, so it could be kind of problematic. I do, however, kind of like the idea of focusing in on just the auditory part of things, as opposed to always looking at what the words are, how it's spelled, which letters come after the others and whatnot. And really the point here is to be able to speak German, and so this makes you focus in on just the auditory part, the speaking and the listening. Then you can go back and start learning about the reading. I kind of like that, and like I said, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with that particular style. Once you've gone through your vocab list once, it'll come up and ask you for memorization, which in this case, it gives you more flashcards, the same ones you had before, but first it gives you the text version, and then it gives you the auditory and text. Then you are supposed to tell your phone again whether or not you got it correct. Once you go through the memorization version, there is also one that you have to write. If it's just 1 or 2 words, they'll make you type out each word using the little keyboard. If it's a little bit longer of a phrase, sometimes they'll just give you the words that you need in order to make that phrase, and you just have to put them in order. Once that is done, then you have the self-evaluation part, which is again basically the same thing as the second step, where it was just giving you the text first and then the auditory. That's the basic general part of this whole app, but they do have several other things in here. Every so often, whenever you go through a list, they'll come up with a bonus. Some of these bonuses are kind of lame, and they're just basically telling you that you should sign up for Mosalingua's premium app, and some of them are a little bit more intricate. Some of them are tips on how to keep yourself motivated while learning a foreign language, or tips on how to learn German in general, and some of these tips are kind of nice. Then there's also bonuses that you can get for little phrases, or you can learn conversations and stuff like that. But as far as the actual app itself, it's not a bad app, it's just not a great app. It basically is a flashcard app, and it spaces out your repetition so that you do get a little bit better memorization out of it, so I do like that aspect of it. It's a really well thought out app. I did have one glitch or kind of an error in it, and that is that whenever I was going through the auditory part of it, it just all of a sudden stopped doing the voiceover, and then it just kept on not doing it for the rest of my flashcards. I'm not entirely sure why that happened, but I just closed out the app and restarted it. Once I reopened the app, it seemed to be okay, but I lost all of the flashcards that I was working on before, and I had to re-add them in. But since then, I haven't had this type of issue, so hopefully it was just kind of a one-time thing. The other things that I find a little bit quirky is that I told this thing that I was like the basic level so that I could find out what it does for the beginners. And it started me out with, the usual bitte, danke, hallo, Auf Wiedersehen, that kind of thing. And then like the third or fourth list that they gave me had sentences that were like 7 words long. And as a beginner, learning words like könnte, I would just kind of feel that that's a little bit more something that you should hold off for until later. But this app starts you out with sentences that are kind of complex, and I think that it may be a little bit more difficult for basic level learners to kind of comprehend this thing. Overall, though, it's not a bad app. Again, like I said, it's just not a great app. So I would give this probably either a 6 or a 7 out of a 10-point scale. But, you know, if you want to learn some vocabulary, it's a decent app for that kind of thing. If you are a very beginner, I would suggest using something else, maybe Duolingo or something like that, rather than trying to use Mosalingua right off the bat. However, once you get into the German language a little bit more, maybe this would be helpful for you. And it also may be a good crash course for anybody who's trying to travel to Germany, if you're going to use the travel option that's on here. Obviously, there is also a premium version of this, which is $4.99, and you can get that in the Android Play Store or the iOS Store. I've linked everything down in the description if you want to check this out. Let me know your thoughts about this app in the comments down below. Das ist alles für heute. Danke fürs Zuschauen. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss.